Klein, Daily News interview, July 7th, 2 o'clock.
You got the recorder on? All right. So, first of all, my name is Rick Parrish. I'm the president and publisher here. I represent the editorial board side. So, from an editorial board standpoint, we will be endorsing candidates and saying to our readers, hey, we think you should vote for so-and-so.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, that's why I'm here. Other editorial board members, they're all lucky enough to be on vacation, so you're stuck with me. Hayat is here from a news standpoint as a reporter to just to write something about you and your being a candidate to get more information out there so that our readers are informed.
Yeah.
So those are the reasons that each of us are here. And our discussions, just like your recorder, are on the record.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure, because I don't know if you've ever done one of these things before, but some people think, well, they can talk on the record and then off the record and on the record and off the record, and that's not the way this works.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
We're on the record, so whatever you say is,
It's
good.
on the record. Yeah.
Yep. I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Oh, yeah.
Because people aren't always familiar with it, and then they'll go, well, what'd you do writing about that? Well, it's all on the
talked
record.
about it.
Yeah. So.
And just FYI, the story, I'm going to be doing like small profiles on everyone, and I think the District 1 candidates won't be until July 19th. So this is kind of ahead of time.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then what we hope to do in the next hour, and I apologize for being a couple minutes late, and we appreciate you being patient, is our readers know a little bit about you, and I think most of what they know is from, the whole YouTube going after the pedophiles and things like that. But
Yeah.
we want to get to know
More.
the other side of you, maybe, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then we want to talk about what priorities that you would, if you were elected, hey, what would your top 3 priorities be? What would you want to see happen?
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of interrupt and go back and forth to clarify sort of your positions and what your issues might be along the way,
Okay.
so that our readers can help to truly know.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we can start, if that's okay. Do you have some background questions?
Oh, yeah. Well, what made you want to run for Calais County Commissioner?
Well, specifically, after I caught the first sex predator in Kelso, Mike Wallen sent me a message. He knew that I was going to be running a paper candidacy for state rep to help Gary Johnson with up-ticket voting. And he was like, you have name recognition and people like you, and you have a chance of winning this. So why not just run for this, where you can actually do some good, because you can actually win this. And so I thought about it and talked it over with my wife, because, running an actual campaign is a lot different than just signing up and putting a statement out in the voter's guide. And so, yeah, it was pretty much that. I found out really quickly by going to county commissioner meetings that you don't make much headway in there as far as trying to get them to do things people are asking. Like, when we started going to the Kelso City Council meetings, we originally started going to the Kelso City Council meetings to talk about fluoride, and that was about the same time that Love Over Woman popped up, and we were just, constantly there. So we heard about, them starting, and we heard about the huge increase in crime.
You mean you and your wife, or?
It was me and Chris Bornstead. Mostly me and Chris Bornstead. And then it came, I remember specifically, it was Chuck Hendrickson came to a city council meeting and said, we're instructing our people on what to do and how to take care of the crime rate problem was going to be going down. And then it was 2 weeks later where one of the Kelso police officers said, yeah, they're not letting them report crimes in their address. They're making them go outside and try to send them to another address so that the crime rate there doesn't look so bad. And, so we ended up going, me and my buddy went in at one point. It's when they released that guy who snatched that little girl, the crazy person. They thought it was like his niece or something like that. They released him back into Love Over Woman. And me and a friend had went there. Our original intention was to go there and just watch the guy and make sure he doesn't kidnap somebody, because they just released him from jail because they couldn't charge him. And we didn't realize that like they took him back into custody that day, and that same period of time, my buddy was on Facebook clearing it of the area's sex offenders because they're not allowed on Facebook, and so he like knew the names and faces that were on that list, and we went in there, and I didn't even give a name; they just let me in, and he gave a fake name, and when he went to go sign in on the fake name, he saw somebody that was on the sex offender registry, and it was at this point when they had assured City Council that there weren't actually open to sex offenders, and we go walking through, and he's like, yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. But he was like, so-and-so is on that list. And I'm like, who's that? And he's like, he's on the sex offender list. And then we went outside into the back and had a cigarette, and it was just one of the most sketchy things I've ever done, including going out and trying to catch sex predators. It was scary at that time.
Why?
It was just the people that are at Love Over Woman now aren't the same type of people that were there when it first opened up. There was like full-on open drug use, just people high as can get. Bad guys, like, you know, if you went to sleep, you'd wake up, all your stuff was gone. They had an area cordoned off in the back where they told people that they can go use whatever they want on this side over here is for smoking. And it was just, the area is just most high tweakers you can possibly imagine, all homeless. They gave them a place to stay, which is great, but they also started allowing families in. They wouldn't kick the families out when they show up. And it was dangerous, like hanging out on Skid Row. And we eventually saw the sex offender come out, and he was like, oh, there he is. And we're like, that's all we really needed to see. Like, they just failed their inspection, pretty much. And so we left. And we went and told the city council this, and we did a bunch of public records requests and found out the increase in calls when it was a women's support shelter, which they used the women's support shelters. What's the word I'm looking for? What it was, the land was regulated for. They used that as saying it was the same type of thing. But when it was a women's support shelter, it had 11 police calls in 12 months, and in 6 months at Love Over Woman, it had 400. I think it was like 440.
Let me stop you real quick because I want to make sure we get some background.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Kelso.
Kelso. Where do you work?
I am a student right now. I did work at Kel Senior Communities last time I had a job.
Okay. And you're a student where?
LCC.
Okay. Studying to be?
I'm studying for criminal justice. I'm planning on working in human trafficking.
Okay. Outstanding. And then, did you grow up here? Have you lived here all your life, or did you move here?
Yeah, I lived here all my life. Not all my life. I've lived in Spokane, San Juan, Washington, Vancouver, Longview, and Portland.
Well, let's make it easy. How long you lived here?
Probably 28 out of 36 years.
Okay. And then we ask all candidates if they choose to share. How old are you?
36.
36. Okay. All right. So 36 student. What other quick background stuff?
Well, I was curious to know, what went into your decision to study criminal justice?
I was wanting to be a lawyer, and I realized that, law school is really difficult to get into, and it's expensive, and there's a good chance I might not finish that. And if I went into school for pre-law and I didn't finish, that's a degree in not finishing school. So I figured at the very least, I can find something in criminal justice that I could do to help people.
Okay. So, what would be your top 1, 2, 3 priorities if you were voted into office?
To get back to that original question, why, when we eventually presented all this stuff to the city council, they asked us what we should do, and I said, you guys, you make proclamations all the time. Make a proclamation to the county that you don't want to fund this anymore.
Yep.
Because they kept on saying our hands are tied. Well, they did that, and the county we all know what, is the result now.
Uh-huh.
They just didn't listen. And we went and they just kept on. It was very obvious they had no intentions of listening to us at the county level. So that's why I ended up running.
Okay. And so, as your priorities, is love overwhelming one of them, or do you have other priorities if you were elected?
My main priorities, if I'm elected, I'd like to see the building and planning department just completely revamped so people aren't having to pay so much money to do things on the property.
Okay.
And take so much time and fill out so much paper there.
To get a permit?
I'd like to see the times of the commissioner meetings moved to the evenings when tax-paying citizens can actually go, because they're at Tuesday at 9 in the morning, and most people are at work at that time.
Okay.
And I'd like to see the jail return back into the charge of the sheriff.
You said you had a cousin who died there?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Her name was Nicole. I know her mom's maiden. I'm not sure what her last name was.
Was she one of the 4 who
No.
had, okay.
How long ago was it?
I want to say like 2002 or 2003. She hung herself.
12, 13 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
And do you think the county was liable for that?
Well, I know she was on suicide watch and she was able to pull off hanging herself, so I don't know how that's possible. I know.
Yeah.
And like Pierce County, if you mention that you're depressed, I mean, it's on the TV show Jail, like they lock you in a thing that makes it so you can't move. That's just for saying you're depressed. Well, you're on suicide watch, and they lock you up like that. My cousin was able to pull off hanging herself in jail, so
Yeah. What was her last name?
I'm not positive what it was.
Okay, so maybe we can start on building and planning. So, do you have any more in-depth thoughts on what exactly you'd want to do with building and planning to make it more efficient, or how do you want to go about that?
I would like to get rid of a vast majority of the fees and permits to do things on your property. Like,
So reduce or eliminate the fees?
yeah. I know that just like to put a storage container on your property, it costs, I think, like $470, something like that. 177 of it is the permit. 177 of it is the permit inspection. Or no, it's the permitting engineering inspection. I think the state charges $450, and then there's like a $75 permit fee. A fee to pay the permit, which is just a fee. Like the whole thing's just ridiculous, and that's just to put a storage container on your land.
Okay.
And I know like to put a pool that's above ground, it was somewhere up there for like $360 when I went to go look, just at the master fee schedule.
Okay.
There's just a lot of ridiculous fees that don't need to be there, and the way the state codes work, they can't charge more than what it costs to make the permit. And they got a ton of people in that office, so they have to pay for those people's, salaries.
Sure.
That's why those permits are so high.
Okay. What else would you want to do with building and planning and revamping it?
Well, I mean, if it was completely up to me, I'd like to just let people go in there and replace the whole thing with a rubber stamp that says approved. If it's incumbent on whoever's building it, whoever's planning on living in it, or using it for whatever purposes to get it done right. As far as the people building it, if you don't build it right, you're going to get yourself sued. If it falls down, no one's going to be trying to, hire you again. It should be just noted on your title that you didn't want to go through the permitting process. I think that should be voluntary.
So it should be an optional type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a really simple thing to know on the title. Like, they opted out of any type of permits, so if they want to sell them, any company, and even insurance companies, more than likely going to make you get the permits. So,
No question.
but-
They're going to insure you.
yeah, the market will make sure that you're getting this stuff done a lot more efficiently than the government will.
Okay. Anything else on building and planning?
That's all I got off the top of my head right now.
No, that's fine. We just want to make sure these are your priorities. We want to kind of deep dive into them a little bit. Obviously, I'm not going to dive in too much to meeting times being moved because that's pretty self-explanatory. So let's go back to the jail and returning it to the sheriff. I mean, what's wrong with the jail now, and what by returning it to the sheriff's office, sort of, why would that make it better?
Well, there'd be accountability. Right now, it's being in control of the Department of Corrections, and that's just basically a government bureaucrat. There's nobody to vote them out of office if things are getting screwed up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can if we had the sheriff been in charge of it. And I believe there's only like 5 or 7 counties in the state that the sheriff's not in charge of their jail. And so, in a situation where we have the lawsuits, people are going to end up paying for those one way or another, or at least paying, the lawyers to fight the lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nobody that you can vote out of office for taking care of that thing or snipping those types of things in the butt, at the very beginning. There shouldn't be that many deaths that short a time. When you go online, you can see countless people talk about it. And I have had friends that go in there they'll be injured or they'll get sick while they're in there, and the guards